Welcome to Learn to Make Amigurumi with Mint Cat. Today is lesson 2 and I'm going to show you how to make this little kitty cat. So in the description I've got a link to the pattern. I've printed the pattern out for myself. You can look at it on the screen or you can print it out, whatever you prefer. And the materials we need is 2 colors of yarn. I will be using a beige and a dark brown today. We also need a little scrap of black yarn for some embroidering details. We really just need a little bit of this. We will also need 2 buttons, which we will be using for the eyes, just like in this one. And I recommend you find buttons with 4 holes in them. The ones that have 2 holes in them always look a little bit weird as eyes, so try to find those with 4 holes in them. We need a 4mm crochet hook, or a smaller one, whichever works best with your yarn. It has to be smaller than the one recommended because when we're making a stuffed little amigurumi, we don't want to have any large holes in between the stitches, so use a small hook. We will need a yarn or darning needle to sew on the buttons and to weave in the ends. And I'm going to be using a paper clip as a stitch marker, and we'll also need some scissors. Alright, let's get started. In the last video I showed you the basics of making amigurumi, so you should know what to do, but the pattern tells you pretty much everything you need to know. So starting with the pattern, we'll start with the body, and I'm not going to be reading out the pattern because you'll hopefully have it in front of you. So I'll just show you what to do and you can work along. I will be fast forwarding some of the process, so just pause the video whenever you need to so you can catch up to wherever I am in the process and then work along with me. So we'll be starting with our color A. That is our main color in this cat. This is the red, the dark red. I will be using a beige this time, a light brown. And we'll start with a ring of 6 single crochet stitches. So we'll make our magic ring, which is always a great base for any amigurumi work because you get a nice, neat starting point. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we want to close the beginning to have a nice round start without a hole in the middle. There we go. And now we start with round 1, which is 2 single crochet in each stitch. And again, I'll be taking my tail along like I did last time, so I don't have to sew this one in. It'll just be secured by taking it along through all the stitches. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. This was my round 1. And I'll be adding my stitch marker now so I can keep track of the last stitch of the round, so I know I'm not off count. And in round 2 we'll do 2 single crochet in the first and then 1 single crochet in the next, and we'll repeat this all the way around until we get to 18 stitches. So this is 3, 4, 5. By now my tail is short enough to just put it to the back, and then it'll be inside my little cat and it won't be falling out. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and before I make my last stitch, I'll take my stitch marker out, make my 18th stitch, and put the stitch marker back in. So now we're at 18 stitches and we want to start bending this the other way. So we actually work on the outside, on the right side. And round 3, we do 2 single crochet in the first, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 until we get to 24 stitches. And again, before I do my last stitch, I take my stitch marker out, then make my last stitch for 24 stitches and put it back in. There we go. Again, I'll turn it this way. So that was round 4. In round 5, we do 2 single crochet in the first, and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches until we get to 30 stitches all the way around. And now in round 5, we will do 1 single crochet in the first 5 stitches, and then we'll switch to our second color. So I will do 4 stitches. As I've showed you before, we don't want to do the 5th stitch yet because we're going to be switching to a different color. So we're just going to insert our hook, pull a loop, and leave it like this. Now we want to get started on our next color. You can use any color combination you want. If you're really new still to crocheting, you might not want to start with such a dark yarn yet. But if you have some experience, it shouldn't be a big problem. You can still see your stitches, just not as well as you can with a light. So you made your slip knot, you slip it on your hook, you hold the tail of the slip knot as well as your previous yarn color at the back. You hold it tight so it doesn't slip away. Then you pull the loop through and take the previous color and pull it tight to tighten the stitch. And now we can just make the next stitches in our second color. According to our pattern, we need to do 3 single crochet stitches in the second color and then switch back. So I will just do 1, 2 full stitches, and then again a half stitch that I can then switch to the other color to. Just drop your color, don't cut it off. Grab your previous color, finish your stitch, pull on the second color to tighten the stitch, and then just keep crocheting with your first color. So this way you can make an easy color change and you don't have to weave in all the ends in the end because you will keep using this yarn. I'll show you how when I get to that spot in the next round. So I'll be working 1 single crochet all the way around until I get to my stitch marker, and then I'll meet you again. Alright, I will not move my stitch marker this time. I'll just pull it over to the side and make a stitch right around the stitch marker. This way I know that right here was the end of the last row where I did increases and the beginning of the first row without increases. So now our next row tells us to do 4 single crochet and then switch to the other yarn. So again, I'll do 3 full ones. And then on the 4th one, I'll switch to the other yarn. So again, just drop your current working yarn, pick up your second color yarn from the back, pull it through the stitch. Now at this point, you want to make sure you're not tugging on the yarn too tightly because you don't want to distort this. So you want this to be a little bit loose back here so it has some room. If you'd pull it too tight, you would just distort this whole work piece. So just grab this yarn and loosen it up a little bit and then do your next stitch. And this time we'll do 5 stitches in the second color and then switch to the first color again. So I'll do 4 full ones and the 5th one half. Pick up my first color yarn again back here and do the same thing I did with the dark yarn. I'll just pull it over, pull it through, make sure it's not too tight in the back. So it'll just be overlaying like this, and since this is the inside, nobody will be seeing this. So we can just go like this and don't have to sew in any ends in the end. I'll show you again. There are our yarns overlaying. And again, I'll make 1 single crochet all the way around until I get back to my last stitch, and I'll meet you there. Alright, this was my last stitch in this round, and now the pattern tells me to repeat the previous round, and actually it tells me to repeat it twice. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. 3 single crochet stitches. Then for the 4th one, I will do a switch to my second color. Just drop your yarn, pick up the other color, pull it through, tighten the stitch, and make sure you have loose yarn back here. You don't want it to be too tight. Not too loose either, because then your stitch could open a bit and you would have a hole in it at some point. But you know, loose enough so it has a little bit of room to stretch across the side. And again, I'll do 4 full ones and 1 half stitch. Drop the second color yarn, pick up the first color, pull it through, tighten the stitch, make sure you have enough room back here so it doesn't get distorted, and then just keep crocheting. 1 single crochet all the way around. And I'll do this one more time for the next row, and then I'll meet you again for row number 9. Alright, so now we're going to start row number 9, and it tells us to repeat row number 5, which means we'll do 5 stitches in our first color. So in this case 4.5 ones, so we can switch. Then 3 in the second, and then switch back to the first. So again, we want to drop our current yarn, pick up the other one, pull it through, tighten your stitch, make sure you have enough room so it's not distorted in the back, and then do your 3 stitches. 1, 2, this will be number 3, and I'll pick up my other yarn again, attach it, make sure I have enough room in the back, and then I'll do 3 stitches in this color, and then we're going to fasten off the second color because we don't need it anymore for this piece, so we're just gonna cut it off and then use our needle to secure it. So in the back you can see the 2 color yarns are just overlaying each other because they go back and forth, so we don't have so many ends in here. And now we're just gonna feed this through a couple of the dark stitches. Don't feed it through the light stitches or the first color stitches. Just, it's a bit hard to see with the dark yarn, but I'm just feeding it through the stitches, not just behind the loose yarns, but actually into these stitches to secure it. It doesn't have to be super secured since it's going to be on the inside. We just want to secure it so the stitch doesn't loosen and leave a little hole in the end. It wouldn't come out all the way, but it might leave a little hole. So that's all we need to do right now. Then we're going to finish this round with 1 single crochet in each, and round 10 is also 1 single crochet in each. So I'm going to do those 2 rounds, and then I'll meet you at the beginning of row 11. Alright, this was my last stitch of round 10. So now I can start round 11, and you see our second color patch right here, which is this little patch that is under the eye. of the kitty cat. So now in round 11 we're going to start decreasing, and it says SC2 top, which means single crochet 2 together, but we're going to use the invisible decrease that we learned in the last video, and I'm just going to show it to you again in case you didn't see the last video or still don't quite know how to do it. So you insert your hook in the front loop of the next stitch, only the front loop, not the back loop. Then you angle your hook down and insert it into the front loop of the second stitch. So you have both front loops on your hook, yarn over, pull your yarn through both front loops. So you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both. And this looks exactly like all the other single crochet, and it's really an invisible decrease. And now the pattern tells us to do the decrease and then 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and to repeat that all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, and we'll do another decrease. And after that I will speed up the video again and then meet you at the end. So at this point you might want to move your stitch marker. I'm going to leave mine here. If you don't want to move it, I'll show you how you count stitches up from your stitch marker. The thing about working in the round without joining is your stitches will not line up straight up, but they all go a little bit sideways, like a little spiral, because you're working in a spiral. So to see where your last stitch is supposed to be, you don't just look straight up from your stitch marker, but you actually count the stitches. Like you see this hole, this is the first one after the stitch marker, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So you just count these little holes and you go in a angled line. That's how you check if you're actually on the right track. And right here, my 24th stitch ended up in the right stitch, in the right end point. So now we're going to do the next round. Round 12 tells us to decrease and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to be doing this all the way around to get to 18 stitches. So again, I'll do my invisible decrease and then 1, 2 stitches. And I'll be doing this all the way around and then meet you on the other side. Alright, so now we have 18 stitches. Again, we're still on the right track. It matches up with our stitch marker. And now the pattern tells us to attach the eyes and stuff our little kitty cat. So we will need our 2 buttons and our black yarn. I'll cut off a piece of the black yarn. We really don't need a lot because it's just a few stitches to sew everything on. I'm threading it into my needle and then I'll attach it on the inside. Now I want to attach it on the back of the dark patch because it's a dark color and I'll be starting with the eye on the patch. So I'll just shift my overlaying yarns from the back and forth out of the way so I can see my stitches. Okay, I can't see them very well here. Let's try down here. There we go. Here are my stitches, and I'm just going to weave this back and forth once, and it can overlay the yarn that went back and forth if you want. Just leave a little tail. You don't want to pull it all the way out. And back. Make sure you're not tangling up your working yarn in there because you still need that. So this is secured. I'm going to turn it out the other way again, and I will pick out which button I want on here. I'll use the bigger one again. I want it right centered on my patch, and I'll go in from the back through my stitches and then through the button. Pull it up. Again, make sure you're not tangling up your working yarn. And I will just go in and out of this one twice for each pair of holes. I find that's usually enough to attach it. Now, since the buttons are sewn on, you do not want to give the finished piece to a baby or a very young child because the buttons might still come off. If you want to make something for a baby, either get safety eyes because they're specifically for that purpose and they're anchored and will not come out, or you can just embroider on the eyes, and that way they will be secure and the baby can't take them off and choke on them. So if you use buttons, make sure this is not for really young children because that does pose a bit of a hazard. So I'm just going back and forth, like I said, twice for each set of buttons. So that's in, out, and then it is anchored. There we go. This is attached. Now I want to attach my other eye, and I can choose whether I want my patch to be on the left side or on the right side. So I can do the second button either here or over here. Now with the first cat, I had it on the left side, so now I'm going to put it on the right side. So I'll put my second eye right about here. So I'll just hold it with one hand, grab my yarn with the other, and try to hit right through it. There we go. Don't pull the first one too tight. Again, if you pull it too tight, since it's not been sewn in anywhere, you would just distort your cat, and we don't want it to look like that. So leave some space in there, just enough so it can stretch over the side, and we can still attach the button stronger with the next few stitches. And two more. Nope. There we go. And one more, and then I have secured my eyes. There we go. And I don't want to cut off this yarn yet because I also want to make a nose for this kitty cat. I just embroidered a little nose on it. It's hard to see on the darker yarn, but on the lighter yarn it'll be easier to see. I want to find approximately the middle point between the eyes, and it should be just under the eyes. You could also do it right in between, but I find it just looks nicer if it's just under the eyes. So I'm going to be using these 3 stitches. So I'm going to go through the bottom one first from the inside. There we go. And now to make a nose, I will go through the right stitch twice. Then I will go into the left stitch, make a line on the top to get the top edge of the nose, just like this. And now I want to go back through the bottom one to fill out my nose. And you might have to go back a couple times. I still have a little light spot in the middle that I want to close up. And the thicker the black yarn you're using is, the less stitches you will need to get a nice solid nose. I'll go back into the other side again and do a stitch or two over there. And then it should be all closed off in the center. Alright, and I'll do a last stitch that I'll pull through this top that I made from going from one stitch to the other, just right through there and back through the bottom. And this is my kitty nose. I hope you can see it. And if you like, you can use a different color for it. You can use pink or white or whatever color you want to use. Just try to use black for the eyes because it'll serve as the pupil in the middle of the eye. And now I'm just weaving in the end of the black so I can cut it off and keep working on closing off this kitty cat. All right, so that is done. The eyes and nose are in place. And now I also want to stuff this because once I close this up more, I won't have enough room to get the stuffing in there. So I'm just going to take my stuffing material here. It's regular polyfill. You can use whatever you find or prefer. I prefer polyester stuffing for amigurumis, just like I prefer acrylic yarn for it, because it's just longer lasting and you can wash it. If you give this to a kid, you do want to be able to wash it. Alright, so I'll stuff this in there. Not too tight, you don't want to overstuff, but enough to have a nice body to it and to not feel any empty spaces anywhere. And I want to push it all down so I can still work on my stitches, and then I'll fluff it up later after I'm done closing up this hole. So now round 13 tells us to decrease the first 2 stitches and then do 1 single crochet in the next until we get down to 12 stitches. So I am going to do that. Be careful with your stuffing. You don't want it to go through the stitches you're making now, because you won't be able to remove it if you have little pieces of the stuffing winding around your yarn. That won't be easily removed, so you want to push the stuffing down so you actually have some room to do your stitches. So I will do this all the way around, and then I'll meet you again for finishing it off. So now I'm down to 12 stitches, and now the pattern tells me to do 6 decreases, and then I will have 6 stitches left. So we will do 6 of the invisible decreases. 1, 2. I'm just pushing the stuffing down a bit more so it doesn't get into my stitches. 3. 4. 5, and 1 more. These stitches are sometimes really hard to get into, so you might have to use your fingernail to help it along, since you just want to get into the front loop to make your invisible decrease. And there we go, 6. And now I'm going to cut off my yarn, pull it through to fasten it off, and I'll finish it off with my needle. There, and I showed you this trick in the last video as well. You go from the outside to the inside, you just grab the front loop. Oh, and I showed you this in the last video. You just go from the outside to the inside, you grab your front loop, pull the yarn through, don't pull too tight. Again, grab the next front loop, just the front loop, not the whole stitch. And do this all the way around for all 6 stitches. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you pull to close the hole. Pull it tight. Insert your needle into the middle of the hole, right through the center. Let it come out on the side. Pull it tight. I tried to have the part that comes out on the back of the cat, so it's not going to be visible from the front. There. And you pull it tight until you have a nice, neat finish. And then we sew in the yarn. weaving it through a couple stitches, skipping one loop, and weaving it back. There we go. We're going to cut this off as well. And we have finished the body of our kitty cat. We can take the stitch marker out now. And we can fluff it up a bit, just roll it in your hand to distribute the stuffing, since we had to push it out of the way. And this is our little kitty cat body. Now all we need to do is make the legs and tail and ears, and we'll have another kitty cat. So let's get started on that.